All right, everybody, you've just tuned in to the Steel City Blitz Steelers Podcast presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And we'll talk in a little bit about the shirt that is now running for this current week and the next, and how it is a little closer to home for us this time around. So we'll make sure that we discuss that, and hopefully you'll be encouraged to buy a shirt and help donate some money to a really, really good cause. But we are, of course, in the midst of mini camp. This is the mandatory mini camp, and I must say it is quite refreshing not to have, any certain like running backs in the midst of contract situations not there or anything else like that. I believe everyone is in attendance at the mini camp, so that's kind of a nice change. And what else did I want to mention regarding that as well? I'll get to all that stuff. But anyway, joining me tonight from extremely hot Las Vegas is Chris. Joining me from extremely hot Portland is Ben. Not two things I thought I would be mentioning in the same sentence. But anyway, Chris, how are things going for you tonight?
Well, things are all right. My body just hurts all around, but we're getting through it here.
Yeah. You got to stop that midget wrestling that
No
you've
way.
been involved in lately. And no, I'm kidding.
way.
Yeah, and Ben, you're surviving the extraordinary heat out there.
That's not bad. It's way better than what I grew up in, so it's not a big deal.
Well, yeah,
it kind of sucks, but it's not like stifling.
Right.
Arizona heat, which. Arizona heat would suck balls if they weren't stuck to your leg.
And on that note, I am going to immediately move on to something else because the visions are just too much for me to bear. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and listenership, I think is the better term, continues to grow. So thank you very much, and please continue to comment, folks, those of you that do, along the different formats and stuff. We get some comments on YouTube and Spreaker and all kinds of stuff, and even right over at the site. So please continue to do that, and happy to interact with you. And if you got questions you'd like to have answered on the podcast, please fire away as well. Guys, minicamp is underway. Today was the second day. They'll wrap things up tomorrow, and then of course we head into the dead period, that period of time where every NFL fan holds their breath, hoping that their team doesn't get in any sort of stupid trouble leading into training camp. But until that time, we do have some things going on, and I know we have kind of an interesting thing to mention here because and I just want to jump right into it. It's something called Justin Brown syndrome. Chris, do you remember what Justin Brown syndrome was?
Yeah, he's like the all-star of the off season, and then when you get into the makes the team, and then you go into the the real stage and the big games, and you just don't see the symmetry line up.
Yeah. Justin Brown, of course, was a wide receiver who turned a lot of heads in OTAs and minicamp and even in training camp, and then just didn't really pan out. And Ben, are we seeing any guys like that right now through 2 days of minicamp and through several weeks of OTAs?
Well, I don't really think we'll know that, until
right
August, let's say. But I'd say Sutton Smith is certainly a candidate.
Yeah, which part of me, I think it's not fair yet because we really don't know what he is just yet. They've got him playing fullback, they've got him playing linebacker. I mean, they know they love him on special teams, but he probably would, based on the hype right now. I guess he would be that guy. But then earlier today there was some discussion about Steelers fullback and special teams guru Rosie Nix actually lining up at the running back position. Chris, how much do you make of that?
Honestly, it's probably for emergency situations or when he does actually get the ball, make sure that he's just muscle memory, making sure that he knows how to control the handoff and take the handoff and secure the ball. You never know with goal line situations or short yard situations. You're just making sure that he's comfortable doing that and taking the handoff.
That's an excellent point that I don't think people think about a lot. Rosie Nix doesn't touch the ball a lot. And it's not second nature to him the way it is to a player who has been a running back or a fullback his entire career. Remember, he played in college on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. Ben, is this just a completely experimental thing going on with Nix, or is there something more serious to it?
I agree with Chris. I think it's just more about muscle memory and, putting him in a situation where if they had to count on him in an emergency, they could. And that, that's it. I'm not reading zero into it. I don't really even think it's worth talking about much.
No, and I certainly did not plan to spend much time on it, but it all, to me, in my mind, it kind of correlates with the whole Justin Brown thing. Yeah. That because somebody sees something out of the ordinary, then we all want to jump on that. And A, we want to be the first to claim we saw it. B, we want to be the first to claim that it's going to happen, and let things play out. I mean, this is a long process. We still have a lot of time left before the team actually plays any somewhat meaningful snaps in the preseason, so let things play out and let's go from there. A little bit of off the field stuff. David DeCastro has not been at any of the Phase 3 OTA stuff because his wife gave birth to their second child, and so his first appearances were this week at the mini camp. And I love offensive linemen because most of the time they speak the truth. And the Steelers are very, very much part of that. And sure enough, somebody stuck a microphone in David DeCastro's face, and he was pretty blunt about noticing a real change in the locker room, that it just feels different. Chris, obviously you're not there. You don't know what that feels like, but do you get what he's saying? I mean, do you understand that there's got to be a different vibe there?
Yeah, there's no longer individuals. I think Juju said it today. There's no longer individuals, and it's a team, and that's huge. When you go forward, everyone can lean on each other and kind of bounce the chemistry back and forth, and that's what you want to hear at this time of the season.
Yeah, I think so too. Ben was, I don't know if you saw all of his comments, but I mean, he clearly was not thrilled with Brown, and is sounds pretty excited that he's not there, quite frankly.
I heard the whole interview today on SNR. He seemed pretty upbeat. He seems to be optimistic about Sean Surratt, which I really liked hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, he seems to be like a lot of the vets right now, just of the mind where he's like, you know what, it's a great time to be a Steeler, and I really want to move past that. So can we go to the next question? Which, that's great. That's where I wish more guys were, Juju keeps talking about it, and I kind of wish, I think it's time for Juju to stop talking about it too. I mean, I love the guy, but it's time to stop answering those questions, Juju. Just say, hey, can we just keep this to a conversation about the guys that are here? Which brings me to another point, and I'll ask both of you this, since we're kind of at a pivot point right now. But I look at the Steelers' depth chart this year at wide receiver, and granted, you lose a guy like Antonio Brown. You can't just replace that guy with one player. But looking at them from 1 to 6, I think their depth is better this season than it was last year. In particular, when you look at guys like Hunter and DHB, who really didn't do anything for you. They were just there taking up space. DHB didn't really do anything on special teams last year, which, really was the reason that they kept him around. Right. That and, his also leadership for the younger players, because they weren't getting that out of another wide receiver who was a fixture in the number one slot. So, I mean, I looking at that group right now, I don't know, man. Judging by their contracts, I don't think, in particular, Eli Rogers, it looked to me like they were going to definitely keep him based upon his signing bonus. But do they really need to keep Eli Rogers and Ryan Switzer? I mean, Deontay Johnson can return kicks and punts.
Well, yeah, let me swing that to Chris. Chris, if you just look at that depth right now, what do you agree that depth is a little bit better than it was last year?
Yeah, especially when you have to factor in a tier 3 signing, and Dante Moncrief has some actual experience, and we're not just relying on guys that are just getting brought in via the draft. And so same with Deontay Johnson getting brought in to help out as well. Johnson can play both inside and out. Juju can play inside and out. Moncrief's more an outside guy. Switzer can play inside and out. Washington is just an outside guy. So there's a lot of guys who can play multiple spots. So you'd like to see that. And like Ben said, we upgraded from Hunter and DHB, I feel like, as well. So regarding the depth, definitely better. And I like what I see. And with Ryan Switzer, what people don't really realize is that he could play inside and out. He's not just.
You think so? I don't see him play in the X. You really think so?
Yeah. Last year when he did, he got some serious separation in a few games. I have to go back and see which games they were, but I was talking to someone via DM, and he was sending me a whole bunch of clips of it because I didn't believe him, and I was like starstruck almost. Like, wow, I didn't realize that happened.
Huh. I don't think that would be ideal. I think at a pinch,
no, definitely not.
Yes, but couple things. Obviously, I'm taking a jury is still out approach on James Washington. I think all the necessary things are there, and he'll have an improved season. I also think with a rookie like Johnson, you gotta kind of pump the brakes on that a little bit too, just because he is a rookie. But I do agree with you guys. I think the overall depth is better. I have not heard a bad thing about Dante Moncrief. In fact, everything has been super positive.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think Big Ben was saying the other day that he is just so impressed with him because he cannot get enough. He's trying to absorb everything. Stays on the field longer, goes in, immediately sits down with one of the coaches, starts working over, some of the calls, some of the different things that they do. So obviously optimism's high and things of that nature. But I would also, going back to one of your other points too, Ben. I agree about Juju. It's time to move on from the AB thing. And again, he can't help who asks him questions, but what he can do is he can start saying, look, guys, I've addressed it. I'm done talking about it. It's time to move on. And I think that stuff will stop. But until he does kind of make that statement, I think it's probably going to keep happening. But, what are you going to do? I mean, that's the media today. That's what they want to get hot takes and talking points and all that other crap. So I'm not totally
sound
surprised.
Bites, man.
Oh God, yes. Especially ones that you can take out of context.
Oh yeah,
and
those are the
do
best.
Do some spin with, and oh boy, look at what he said. And then when you look at the entire interview, it's like, oh well, now I get it. But yeah, so things looking really well in that part. What was that? What else was I going to mention in that? Anyway, we're going to do some different things tonight. A little game of true and false. I think that's going to be fun. I do want to mention, guys, the shirt from 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh is Cheers to Pittsburgh is what the shirt is called. It is a play on the famous Cheers sign from the famous TV show and bar up in Boston. And it's, Pittsburgh with that type of font. And then it says Steel City below it. You can check it out on our website. And the proceeds, of course, $8 from every shirt sold goes to a really worthy cause. And this time around, it goes to a young man named Nolan Lowry. And Nolan's dad, Brian, spent some time with us here at SCB. Diehard Steelers fan, good guy, good folks. And, their son's gone through quite a few struggles emotionally and just, he's in real need of an emotional support dog. And those are not cheap. And just kind of talking with Brian, it's truly incredible the amount of support they're getting. But at the same time, these dogs are really, really expensive to get. And so they are working with 26 shirts and would love to get one of these dogs as soon as possible. And so please, if you consider the shirt, please consider the good thing that you're helping out with Brian and his son Nolan with, because it's definitely, I'm not going to get into a lot of the specifics, guys, but this young man really, really needs some help. And I know Brian and his wife would certainly appreciate it. So other mini camp notes, guys, what, Ben, you posted something this week in our message stuff that we used to talk back and forth about Boswell, something that I couldn't tell if it was him saying it or somebody saying it about Boswell. Do you recall that?
No.
Crap. What
was the context?
Well, I can't remember. It was something about, going out there and hitting, an important field goal or something like that. And I had it in front of me, and now, of course, I can't find it in my phone. My phone's got too much crap on it. So I'm not going to worry about it. But it was something. It was like a screenshot of some quotes, but I couldn't tell who had made the comments. And
it was just a quote.
Yeah.
By Boswell. It's just the next kick. I know I've got to be better
than
last year, but I'm not even paying attention to last year. I'm just focused on my next kick. I'm focused on next Tuesday, which is my next team period. Just kind of going day by day, kick by kick. And I liked reading it because it was in my mind him saying, I'm just focusing on the picture in front of me, not what happened last year.
Yeah.
I'm not, he's gone back and he said, look, we always watch film and we always scrutinize ourselves and talk about what we did right and what we did wrong. And that's going to be an ongoing process and it's constant. So, that's been done. But at this point, I'm moving forward and I'm thinking about the next time I go out and I kick the ball.
Yeah, and it's the right approach. It's probably the only approach. I can't imagine what we'd be talking about if he was, sitting there telling us that, oh boy, I keep thinking about these kicks that went wide this and the one I slipped, and I can't even imagine what the dialogue would be there. But it's fascinating to me how kickers are like that. They can be so great, and then it changes. But obviously with the money he's scheduled to make, we want nothing more than to see him back into his 2017 form. But that's going to remain to be seen. And we talked about it on the last show a little bit about the competition that he'll have in there with Matthew Wright coming in. And, we won't really know until training camp just how serious it's going to be. But it is interesting nonetheless. One other mini camp type topic too. Devin Bush, they seem to be piling a lot on his plate right now, both in terms of what they want to see physically, but just as importantly, mentally. Chris, I mean, the Steelers had a tradition for many, many years of not putting rookies on the field right away defensively. And that has obviously changed a lot in the post-Dick LeBeau years, but do you get concerned at all about how much they're doing with him?
Physically, maybe a little bit. I think that what they go through in college in terms of strength and conditioning is a bit different than in the pros. I just want him healthy, honestly. But when you look at the things like the playbook and things of that nature, mentally, I think that he's more than well prepared. His dad's been his coach almost his whole life, I think, and I think he's a true student of the game. I think he enjoys those kind of things. Reading the playbook, just knowing the terminology. I think that's a reason why they drafted him as well. Just loves football and loves those kind of things. So physically, maybe a little bit, but other than that, not really.
Okay, yeah. Ben, do you have any concerns about Bush and what they're piling on him right now?
No.
I
honestly don't have any concerns at all. He's got 5 weeks between when this mini camp breaks and he's got a report for training camp. He's going to have to do a lot of conditioning between now and then, but if he's overtrained his body, I mean, and some of you are aware of that term and some of you aren't, but basically it's just a question of having had too much activity and your body being run down and beat up. He can rest. Yeah. He can rest over the next 5 weeks, and he can get caught up on his recuperation, and then get into some conditioning, some physical conditioning, because he's going to have to run and be in great shape when he gets into camp anyway. So he's going to have to condition between now and then. But I really don't have any concerns at all. My concerns are actually the if I had one, it would be the opposite of Chris's. I'm sure he's well prepared. His life has prepared him well for the role he's going to be asked to play. But until I actually see him go out and successfully diagnose offenses and make reads and call the proper defense and make the correct fit adjustments with all the other players, especially the guys in the defensive front, I'm not really going to be convinced. I remember Ryan Shazier trying to play that role when he was a rookie out of Ohio State, and they thought a lot of the same things about him, and he struggled. He didn't really do it very well, and that's part of the reason that when he was injured and came back, they didn't put him back in the lineup right away. They were like, yeah, you're going to have to hang back here, and we're going to play you when we feel like you're ready. And he took the news just fine. You know, he'd been a starter, got injured, and then he lost his spot, but he took it fine. And you know, we'll see what happens. I think they're trying to pile as much as they possibly can on him to see what he's capable of and challenge him, and they should. He's a first round pick,
right? There's a lot that comes with that, and I agree. I think you just kind of keep feeding it, and you know, these coaches have been around the block. They'll know when it's either too much, or they'll know when he can take more, and just kind of go from there. And you know, it was funny you're talking about the conditioning stuff, and obviously the Steelers, and we heard this with guys like Juju. And we've heard it with other players in the past who have shown up to training camp in outstanding physical condition. And it's almost kind of become a laughing point for Mike Tomlin, because they think they're in great shape, but they're really not, and they don't really hit it until that next year. So it's even with the reduced load of training camps, you know, compared to past years, it is kind of fascinating to still understand just how conditioned these guys have to be. So, you know,
remember last year there was one, maybe two players who failed their conditioning and they got cut.
Yeah,
and then
one was
brought back later.
Lineman. Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
You know, I mean, they don't joke around with that stuff. They expect you to be in shape. I mean, that's all part of it. But guys, let's if we can, I would like to play a little bit of this true false game. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to just give you a statement, say true or false, and then the other person can either agree or can go in the complete opposite direction. Neither one of you, just for our studio audience here, neither one of you know the questions or the statements I'm going to make. So there is no prep, none of that stuff. This is all flying by the seat of our pants, and
which we hardly ever do.
Right. Yeah. We never fly by the seat of our pants, as you can tell by my well-scripted choreography. Or something like that. But here we go. Chris, I'll start with you, and here's the first true false statement of the day. Vince Williams will not be a Pittsburgh Steeler on opening day 2019. True or false?
2019.
That would be this coming season.
Wow. I would say false. He's definitely going to be a Steeler. He's going to be starting for us opening day against the Patriots.
Okay, you have no doubts about that. You feel very positive that. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's no reason to believe that he shouldn't be. We talked today on Slack about something, and the reason why is I was perusing. There's other depth charts, and I saw Washington Redskins can really use a linebacker, and I started to think, we can't trade Barron, and we have Bush, and who else? This is that, and I said, well, what could Vince Williams fetch in a trade? So that's why I assume that you're asking the question.
Yeah. I can't come up with these things on my own. I need as much help as I possibly can get. So I scour everything. Ben, do you agree with that assessment that Vince Williams will in fact be a Pittsburgh Steelers on opening day?
Yes, he will be. And okay. I have read this a handful of other places, and it's because there's been speculation by writers like Ed Bouchette and Jerry Dulac that Mark Barron and Devin Bush will be the opening day starters. One, speculating about something like that in May about what's going to happen in September without even seeing a single snap of camp is dumb. Yeah. Two, you guys got to realize the reason they're putting that out is to try and get a reaction out of you and promote themselves and their account, and you're falling into it. So, hey, good for you.
Yeah, but I don't charge for my information.
Yeah, I get it. But I'm talking to the listeners rather.
Sure.
But I don't see any reason to put Barron. Overview. Vince Williams is a run stopper, okay, right. At the Buck. The Mac is the coverage linebacker, the linebacker who runs from sideline to sideline. That's Devin Bush. Trying to stick Mark Barron in there and make him the Buck, make him the run stopper, make him stack and shed blockers and plug holes is trying to pound a square peg into a round hole. It doesn't make any sense. I don't see it. Unless they change something dramatically with the scheme and start covering linebackers again by using their D linemen to hold up blockers, like they used to do back in the old days with Casey Hampton and Aaron Smith and Brett Kiesel. But I don't see that happening because their D linemen are good and they're disruptive, so they're not going to change the way those guys play. So it doesn't make any sense, it follows, to try and make Mark Barron that stack and shed linebacker. It makes no sense. So I don't see it.
No, I don't either. And just at his weight, I mean, he would. God, what is he? 235?
I think he's lighter than that. And they asked him. They asked him to play lighter than he played last year in L.A.
Yeah. Question 2, or true false statement 2. Ben, I'll start with you. Chris Boswell is the opening day place kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. True or false?
True. And Jordan Berry's back too.
Oh, he throws that little caveat in.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And, I'll throw one more in. Steelers fans are pissed about it. Or some.
What's that?
Some were pissed about it.
All about Berry?
About Berry and Boswell.
Oh, well. Yeah. Chris, do you also subscribe to the theory that Boswell will continue to be the kicker?
I do, but I'm here to play a little devil's advocate.
Oh boy.
I'll say Matthew Wright takes the reins, and I'll say why. We all know Boswell struggles. We don't know if they're over or not, so there's that. Also, the Steelers were prepared to cut Boswell if he didn't push back his bonus. So they are apparently comfortable with Matthew Wright at kicker, and they're also comfortable with cutting Boswell outright as well and taking that money. So with those factors and we haven't seen them kick, but the chance that we don't want 2018 season to repeat again, and
No.
so hopefully hopefully I'm wrong, but I'll say Matthew Wright.
Okay, all right, there you have it. Statement 3.
Hang on, real quick. Can I just piggyback onto that really quickly?
Of course.
The landscape has changed in terms of how bad the hit will be. Boswell's roster bonus is no longer guaranteed, so he has a total of $4.8 million in bonus proration remaining on his contract, which would mean if they cut Boswell this year, it would still count $1.2 million against the cap, which would actually gain them $3 million on the cap in terms of cap space for the 2019 season. But next year, he would count $3.6 million, and he would not be on the team.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. So these are things to think about, in that scenario. Anyway, what's your next question?
Statement 3, Ben, I'm going to throw this one out to you. This is Joe Hayden, 30 years old, would like to retire a Pittsburgh Steeler player, excuse me. True or false, they will re-sign him, and he will finish his career in Pittsburgh.
I think there's a possibility that they will extend him before this season. Depending on how much money he's willing to accept. Okay, so I've heard, rumblings that Hayden's one of the guys that they're considering, extending this year because they like him. They like his leadership ability. They like him in general. They like his ability. He's still the number one corner, but he is 30 years old this year.
Yeah.
And, that's something to be aware of, be weary of. And he may want to bet on himself and just play out this last year and then see how much he can make next year. I don't think the Steelers are going to offer him $10 million a year or $9 million, which is what he signed for when he came to Pittsburgh.
Right.
I think it'll probably be, it'll be closer to $8 million, 8.5, maybe between 8 and 9, which isn't great money for corners. Okay. No. But basically they're going to look at it from the standpoint that, sorry, bud, you're kind of getting to the year, where cornerback skills start to deteriorate. We want to keep you around. We like what you do for our younger players. We like what you do as a person in the community. He gets involved in charity and everything else. He still does stuff back in Cleveland and also in Florida. So they like him a lot. They want to keep him, but they're also going to be realistic about how much they're willing to pay the guy. So let's say I give it a 50-50 shot that he gets extended before the season. And then does he get a new contract after that? Probably.
Oh, Chris, your thoughts?
I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, but I'm a huge fan of what Ben just said. With the depth at what it's at right now, it's tough. But Joe Hayden needs to stay healthy. That's number one. Number two is his athletic ability. You can see it's not. He can't run with Tyreek Hill and players like that. You see guys in Baltimore with who they have over there, Hollywood Brown and Miles Boykin, both in the 4.3, 4.4 area. I mean, you got to be able to run with those guys nowadays. I think yes. But also, if no, I think he retires.
Well, he's been dinged up, and he's such a good guy, and he seems to be such a good fit in Pittsburgh. I'm with both of you. I'm really torn on that, but it's hard.
I've met Joe Hayden.
Okay, and what did you think of him when you met him?
Well, we were in Cleveland for an Indians game, and he was opening up his shoe store. So we went in there. Me and my friend, we had our Steelers hats on. He was on the Browns.
Yeah.
So we were like, "Hey, you want to take a picture?" He said, "Yeah, cool. You got to turn the hats around, though." We're like, "Oh, yeah." So we did, and we took a picture. I'll send it to you guys in the group
I've
chat.
seen it.
Oh yeah,
that
it was pretty cool. He was really cool. He was really, really cool.
I may have to question your fandom because I would have chosen not to be in the picture if I was going to be forced to turn my hat around.
And Chris is also a fan of the Cleveland Indians, so
yeah, that's
true. I'm wearing an Indian shirt right now.
Yeah, see, so he's actually a supporter of Cleveland teams. So
that is true.
That's another reason. You could be a secret Browns fan.
Worse things, right? Okay, one more of these, and here it goes. Chris, true or false? Bud Dupree will lead the Steelers in sacks in 2019.
Lead the Steelers in sacks. That is false. I don't think he's top 4. I think that TJ Watt, I think Hargrave, I think Hayward, and I think Devin Bush beat him in sacks.
Whoa, there's a bold one. Wow. Okay.
Well, he's never top 6 sacks.
Well, that and Bush has got really great burst. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. I mean, because when he does blitz, it's going to be on those delay blitzes, where you're coming around the buck who's going in first, and then you're whipping around him and going in, and what should be a hole. And man, he's got a heck of a burst.
Yes.
That quarterback, if he's got a clear lane at him, the quarterback has no shot, none. So I think Chris is onto something here.
I really didn't intend to ask that. I just couldn't resist after something.
And give us some reasons why he's leading the Steelers in sacks. You got to get.
No, I don't.
Oh.
No, I don't. He's not going to lead the Steelers in sacks.
No.
I mean, think about this. Think about it. And again, we've talked about this before, and I don't want to belabor the point, but he produced almost as well as Javon Hargrave, but played 413 more snaps than Jay did. 413 more snaps than Hargrave. He did not produce nearly as well as TJ Watt, and TJ Watt he dropped back in coverage more than any 34 outside linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And had more holds that weren't called against him, fewer opportunities to sack the quarterback, but got there. And Bud wants to talk about all these almost. Oh, well, I almost had this and I almost had that, and it would have been that. That happens to every single edge player, Bud. Yeah. Sorry, you don't get to count those. Okay. Somebody. It was Chris Garman. He's like, man, if we counted holds that prevented sacks, James Harrison would have had 4 sacks per game for his entire career. And he's right. He's dead right. Yeah. So those don't count. You didn't get there. And it's something that Ian has pointed out a number of times is that the number of double-digit sackers, the number of double-digit guys in the NFL that get double-digit sacks every year has remained remarkably stable for over a decade. It's statistically significant. And Bud is not one of those guys, and I don't expect he's ever going to be. I do think that he would be better suited for a Jim Schwartz type wide 9 alignment where he could play 43 defensive end, and all he's got to do is run straight at the quarterback. But he's not in that defense. No. It is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Well, did you guys know that his best, almost his best season in college was at linebacker? It wasn't even at defensive end.
His best statistical year?
Yeah. He actually had almost had 100 total tackles as a linebacker, 13 tackles for losses, and 7 sacks as a sophomore at linebacker. Yep, just a little tidbit there.
Well, it's tidbits like that, Chris, that make you so valuable to the team. No, I'm kidding. Why the Steelers don't experiment with that, I don't know. They got their reasons. I mean, they experiment with lots of things, but the bottom line is somebody tweeted something today, and of course I can't find the damn tweet, but it was really, really good. It talked a little bit about what Ben was alluding to is he gets held, but he gets around the edge, he gets close, he gets this, he gets that, and the person said maybe at the end of the day the talent just isn't there, and I can't argue that.
No, I mean that encapsulates it right there because, I mean, basically the difference between being a successful edge player in the NFL and not being one is 1/10 of a second. And if you are consistently 1/10 of a second or more late, you're not close. The only thing that I will consider close is a quarterback hit. If it's a quarterback hit and it wasn't penalized, okay, you were close.
Yeah.
I'll count those. I'll take those. You're right. That was close. But then how many quarterback hits do your contemporaries have? And then how, by comparison to you?
Yeah.
And if your number is much lower than theirs and your sack numbers are also much lower than theirs, sorry, buddy, you don't have a gripe. You need to figure out what's going on and take care of it. And with Bud, those aren't mental issues. Yes, his pass rush moves are not great because he doesn't convert speed to power very well. But his limitations are defined by his physicality more than they are his mental makeup and his emotional approach to the game. So I don't have a lot of hope for him. I don't know about you guys, but I just don't.
Well, I speak for, I think, all of, both of you guys and everybody. I think I want nothing more than to come on a podcast at the end of 2019 and say, my God, was I wrong about Bud Dupree this year? I mean,
it benefits you and it benefits me too.
Absolutely. It benefits the Steelers. I mean, but we look at these guys, we spend so much time, analyzing what they do well, what they don't do well. And we just don't see it. And I think that's where a lot of other fans are at too. But yeah, we'd love to be proven wrong. That's part of why we do this, guys, we are just about up against it here on the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast. And again, please consider the latest shirt, the Cheers in Pittsburgh t-shirt benefiting Nolan Lowry and again, his dad, Brian, a former member of SCB, diehard Steelers fan. And I know his wife and he would really, really appreciate any help you can give to help out their son as much as possible. So I do just want to add one more little thing here. If I hear anybody else complaining about the women's soccer team running up the score and celebrating too much, I'm going to snap. Okay. These women, holy crap. Okay.
Do you see how hot Alex Morgan is? Good Lord.
She is a very attractive young lady, Chris. Yes. Okay. Now, but that's not my point. No. By the way, there was a Norwegian girl today that should not have been penalized, and she was very attractive as well. But that belabors my point. These girls work their entire lives to get into the World Cup, and I don't care if it's 1-0 or if it's 12-0. If they score a goal, I don't give a crap what they do to celebrate. They have earned the right. And hey, Thailand, spend more money on your program if you don't want to be embarrassed at the World Cup. Get better players, do something. My dog could have done a better job in goal on a couple of those shots. But stop ripping on these poor girls for celebrating too much. Oh, my God. That's it. Okay, rant over. Guys, any last parting shots, Chris?
Ola Adeniyi over Bud Dupree. That's my brand this year.
I love it.
That's what you're hoping for?
That's just my brand at the moment.
That's your brand? Ola's got to beat Chicolo first, who allegedly had giant bone spurs removed from one of his ankles and apparently was having issues with that ankle all year last year. I don't think it's going to make him a better run defender, but he's the third outside linebacker right now. Ola's got to beat him before he can beat Bud. My last thing was just that Alex Morgan used to live here in Portland. Saw her in a restaurant one time. And yeah, Chris is right. She's smoking hot. Trail of fire when she walks. Hi, Alex.
And And on that note, you've been listening to the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast, presented by 26shirts.com/Pittsburgh. And hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.